The transport and logistics industry together act as the artery of the nation's economy as they join all the elements of production with the manufacturers and the consumers. That creates the economies of both scale and scope. This sector provides enormous contribution to the national economy by generating employment, national income and foreign investment. Indian logistics and transport industry is evolving rapidly from being a traditionally operated industry to becoming a technology-driven sector. One company that is forging ahead to provide amalgamated logistics infrastructure and services in India by multi-modal supply chain solutions and cutting-edge technology is Adani Logistics Limited. Adani Logistics Limited is the most diversified end-to-end integrated logistics service provider by creating logistics infrastructure including multi-modal logistics parks, warehouse and industrial parks, grain silos and complete rail solutions for container, liquid, grain, bulk, break bulk and auto with presence across all major markets. Adani Logistics Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary of Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone Limited, APSEZ. APSEZ is India's largest transport utility encompassing a string of ports, logistics, dredging, SEZ and industrial estates. APSEZ owns and operates 13 strategically located ports and terminals along the Indian coastline, spread across 7 maritime states. APSEZ represents 24% of the country's port capacity, demonstrating its vision that when it comes to servicing core national needs, Adani Ports is prepared with scale, scope and speed. An infrastructural marvel, the mega port at Mundra in Gujarat is a major economy gateway that caters to the northern and central hinterland of India with multi-modal connectivity. The deep draft, all-weather port is the largest port in India with state-of-the-art infrastructure which is completely mechanized and provides faster cargo evacuation with minimal turnaround time. Mundra Port houses 28 deep water, all-weather berths and 2 single-point moorings with dedicated terminals for different cargo and commodity types along with world's largest coal import terminal. Mundra Port is equipped to handle all types of cargo including dry bulk, break bulk, project cargo, liquid, containers, automobiles, LNG, LPG and crude. The port that prides in leveraging technology in every aspect of the business, providing productivity of global standards. It has a privately developed rail network of 69 km from Adipur to Mundra Port, along with state-of-the-art container rail operations with double-stack container handling facility which opens gates to nationwide rail connectivity. Adani Logistics Limited has developed and operates 6 multimodal logistics parks spread across more than 450 acres of land at key demand centers across India and has a rapidly expanding network footprint with 3 multimodal logistic parks under construction. With a capacity to handle more than 5 lakh TEUs, these multi-modal logistic parks connect the gateway ports with the vast hinterland of the country, serving the export-import trade by providing storage solutions for containers, bulk, break bulk cargo and automobiles along with services related to stuffing and destuffing, cargo aggregation, custom clearance, warehousing, road transportation and value-added services like sorting, labeling, packing, etc. The multi-modal logistic parks at Patli, Haryana is Adani Logistics flagship terminal. Adani Logistics Limited also operates 75 freight trains, out of which 42 are container trains, 23 are bulk trains, 7 agri trains and 3 auto trains. Adani Logistics Limited also provides road logistics solutions through deployment of dedicated trucks and trailers for faster turnaround of cargo through efficient first mile and last mile solutions. Adani Logistics operates a fleet of 300 plus trucks and growing. The company delivers true integrated logistics solutions by combining its assets and experience. A case in point is the integrated solutions offered by Adani Logistics to the auto sector. Adani Logistics Limited, through its operations at Mundra Port and multi-modal logistics park at Patli, strengthened the auto sector's supply chain from raw material to finished goods. Cold rolled steel coils are imported and custom cleared at Mundra Port, from where they are transported on Adani owned rakes to Patli Logistics Park, where they are stored in dedicated coil warehouses built as per the customer's requirements. Finished products like cars are brought to Patli Logistics Park from the customer's plant and stored in auto yard, from where they are transported onwards on Adani trains. From logistic parks in Taloja and Malur that houses multiple infrastructures such as rail handling infrastructure, container storage yard, grain silos, grade A warehouse, to providing end-to-end integrated logistics solutions. Adani Logistics is connecting the dots from places of production to points of consumption efficiently, effectively and economically. Adani Logistics is also propelling the growth of the infrastructure sector through its bulk cargo rail logistics solutions. A prime example of this infrastructure-backed solution is the induction of high-capacity bulk freight trains at Dhamra Port. Dhamra is an all-weather, multi-user, multi-cargo port situated between Haldia and Paradeep in the east coast of India. With its close proximity to the mineral belt of Odisha, Jharkhand and West Bengal, this port plays a significant role in the movement of coal, limestone and iron ore, taking imported cargo to hinterland plants and cargo from mines or production centers to coastal or export destinations. Dedicated high-capacity freight trains ensures faster evacuation of cargo, resulting into cost savings in the form of reduced demurrage charges, handling loss and idle freight loss. With India's first integrated bulk handling, storage and transportation for food grains, it is altering the future of food security in India. Adani Logistics relies on its scale to bring about this goodness. With 1.175 million metric tons silo capacity and 20 storage infrastructure facilities, Adani Agri Logistics is connecting major food grain producing states like Punjab, Haryana and Madhya Pradesh with major consumption centers located in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, West Bengal and Gujarat, through its pan-India network of procurement and distribution silos. Adani Agri Logistics is a pioneer in providing end-to-end bulk supply chain solution to Food Corporation of India along with various state governments. To shed more light on the vision of Adani Logistics Limited and Adani Ports and SEZ, we are in conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of APSEZ, Mr. Karan Adani. To shed more light on the vision of Adani Logistics Limited and Adani Ports and SEZ, we are in conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of APSEZ, Mr. Karan Adani.
How can infrastructure-backed logistics solutions play a key role in growth of the nation? And how actually it can boost the growth of Indian economy going forward? Because we keep talking about a $5 trillion and $10 trillion benchmarks, but I mean, this is the backbone.
Yes.
Country can grow only on this.
Yes. No, so you're very right in terms of this logistics infrastructure. is the key backbone for any country to grow and any economy to grow. And if you look at any aspect of the economy, whether it's agriculture, whether it's services, whether it is even manufacturing, logistics infrastructure becomes a key ingredient to make sure that you're competitive at a global level. And if you look at when you talk about logistics, it touches everything. It starts from whether it's ports, whether it is railway network, whether it is road network, warehousing, trucking, postal shipping. So it encompasses everything, or including even air. And today for India, if you ask me, we are at a situation where we need to plan ahead. We need to plan for the future demand, not for the current demand. And what we need is large scale infra projects. We need similar to what government is doing today, which is the Delhi Mumbai expressway. Now you need more expressways like that. You need more large ports. You need multiple airports for a city. For a city like Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, the large metros, you can't have just one airport. You need to have multiple airports. And the minute you are able, your supply is more than your demand, your cost comes down. Your cost comes down, your logistics cost comes down. Because of that, efficiency comes in. Today, people talk about that India's logistics cost is 13% of GDP. I think as one, just by solving infrastructure, just by having large infrastructure, you can bring that cost down to maybe 8-9%. But then the next level of optimization, or next level of technology, or those things which will help us take it further down. I think eventually what you will see is whether it's our production crops. Today people, generally when you look at food wastage, almost 40 to 50% of our crop doesn't come to the table because it is not stored correctly. So when you store it correctly, that's all part of the logistics. Or whether you take trucking, why trucking cost is so high in India is because 70% of the time a truck is waiting on the road and not traveling, and only 30% of the time it is traveling. So when we start solving these problems, and once we have the infrastructure in place, and what we need is an integrated infrastructure, planning which is integrated in nature, all the way from from whether it's from the factory gate all the way to the export gate, whether it's the port, or we need to have an integrated view and not a piecemeal view. And I think once we do that, I think India can really move ahead in terms of its manufacturing. It can really be competitive on its agriculture, and can also even on some of the services that we are talking about.
Right. And in fact, if I can summarize, what you are referring to is building a sort of a nervous system on which the whole country can move. One is, like you rightly said, the implementation part of it. The other is the planning part of it.
Yes.
I mean, you guys have done a great job, right from operating the largest port to even the logistics and the way it is handled, even in hinterland or even in remote areas like Northeast. At a national level, do you think we can better in terms of planning, looking at the current geopolitical situation, our neighborhood, and the growth prospects?
So I think two things which is happening on the global level. One is globalization is moving into regionalization, and I think India has to play that role in how does it integrate better into its regional players. So whether it is Nepal, whether it's Bhutan, whether it's Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or even if you take on the western side, the Middle East and the Eastern African countries. So how do we integrate into the region, and not just from a logistics purpose, but whether it's the energy needs, whether it is pipelines, whether it is roads, whether it's railway, so that the goods move freely and can move seamlessly across the border, and that's how the trade will increase. And I think that is what we need to do as a country. One. Second, I think where the world is moving towards is, and especially in developing country like us, and where we are transitioning is, we are going towards what the customer needs. So the customer centricity. So the planning needs, especially for a company like us, we are doing planning now based on what the customer needs. looking at the customer's centricity, looking at what their needs are, what their future plans are, rather than going and saying that this is my asset and I'm going to sell this. The focus is now more on the customer centricity. So the idea is, how do you give them better, faster, cheaper? That's the and you have to do multiple ways. You have to do through infrastructure, you have to do through services, you have to do through technology. You will have to give them value added services. But that is what we need to move towards. That, and that's where the world has moved. And as a country, we need to move towards that.
Right. In fact, I must congratulate you. You have just crossed 300 million tons of
Thank you.
benchmark, which is a very important benchmark. But the way I look at it and the kind of plans you have, this is still, I would say, just the beginning. It's still in the takeoff stage. If you look at the growth potential in India, what is your take on that?
So, as you rightly said, it has just started. The story has just begun for us. We have an ambitious target of becoming 500 million tons by 2025, and almost doubling that by 2030. So that's our plan. But more than anything, I think what is important is that where we are moving towards is that, apart from the benchmark of the volume, how do we do it in a more sustainable, more climate, in a more sustainable way, and in a more uh, efficient way, or climate sensitive way. So a lot of focus is on green initiatives. How do we run it in a more carbon neutral way, and make sure that whatever footprint that we are growing, and whatever footprint that we have, eventually by 2025, how do we reach being a carbon neutral company as well?
In fact, that was my next question, that how technology and this whole EV transformation that is happening globally, how does it affect the overall supply chain ecosystem in the country? And I mean, what is your plan or APSEZ or the overall logistics business for you? How is that in sync with this new revolution?
So I think there are two things on technology front, where India has been today, and where we are, as a group, are, is basically we have been able to create a sort of a seamless view from looking at from a customer point of view. So we've been able to connect our ports, our ICDs, our rail network, and our trucking solution, and been able to give a seamless view to our customers. And through that, and then obviously with a lot of data capturing, we've been able to optimize and been able to create more efficiency. I think where we need to move as a next stage is, how do we start developing new technologies within. So how do we move toward robotics? How do we move towards unmanned port operations and unmanned EV operations? So I think that is the next stage that we would look at. And if you see, EV is going to be a sort of a big disruptor in our view, and it is also going to be helping India, especially in the whole transition of how do you make it more sustainable. Second, how do you reduce the cost? And the way we see it is, especially in the trucks, EV trucks, when they become commercially viable, it is going to bring the cost of trucking down to almost by 90% in our view, and that's going to be a huge disruptor. And so we are anticipating it, and we want to be ahead of the curve, and we are looking at how do we start piloting, and how do we start moving in that direction. I think the second part of that disruption is also going to be because there is a pressure on climate change, and each and every company is forced to look at how their supply chain is going to be more more from a carbon emission point of view at the lowest level. So there is another push from a demand side also to make this viable.
Mundra obviously is India's busiest port, and the amount of cargo it handles. I mean, one is obviously what sets Mundra port apart from, let's say, rest of the ports that we have in the country, and second is how it is likely to evolve, because it's technically today India's gateway to
Yes.
the world.
Mundra Port, when you look at the size and scale, it is roughly 40 kilometers of waterfront. It is 40,000 acres of land, along with the port, which is again used for port-led development. And if you look at the history of Mundra Port, we started with building infrastructure
Yeah.
ahead of time. Then we moved into having operational excellence. So once infrastructure was done and developed, and that was no more the USP, we moved into the whole operational excellence. So that we focused on that. We have to do it. We have to set the benchmark not just from an India point of view, but from a global standard when it comes to operational excellence. And now we are moving into a sort of a port-led development. So the next phase of Mundra's growth is going to come from how it is going to attract industries and become a sort of an industrial town for setting up manufacturing, not just for today's industries but for the new age industry. So we are targeting renewable setup, we are targeting petrochemical setup, we are targeting lot of metal setup. So basically, a lot of metals which are required for the future, like copper, aluminum. So we are looking to set up that. So basically, it becomes an ecosystem for the future for the country with the sort of transition that the country is going through. So whether it's hydrogen, whether it's renewable, or whether it's the metals which will be required. So that's the sort of a transition, and it's purely going to be driven by industrialization in the port.
State-of-the-art technology-driven infrastructure, coupled with high level of automation, customized warehousing solutions, fully mechanized cargo handling systems, robust network of multi-modal terminals, and with intense focus on time management, Adani Logistics is all set to bridge the gap between port's gate to customer's gate.
What are the future thrust areas or growth areas? What are the future plans that you have in mind?
So if you see, APSEZ in the last 10 years, we've been able to cover the coast of India when it comes to ports. When I joined in 2009, we had one port, and today we have 13 ports. And we've covered predominantly the whole coast of India, apart from two states, which is West Bengal and Karnataka. And we are covering 90% of India's hinterland. And I think the same replica we want to do now when we look at inland point of view. So build railway networks, build ICDs, run trains, whether it is for containers or whether it is for bulk material. Do warehousing. So we have a large warehousing plan. We are targeting to have 50 million square feet of warehousing by 2025. And that is predominantly for e-commerce as well as manufacturing, light manufacturing. And then obviously do the trucking part, EV trucking, to give the last mile connectivity to the customer. And then obviously link all of that with technology, as we mentioned earlier, and higher technology in terms of looking at machine learning, looking at artificial intelligence, so that planning becomes seamless. And the whole concept for the growth of APSEZ is that you put customer in center and then develop infrastructure around it.
Adani Logistics has become a harbinger of economic development, progress and prosperity, and is taking India to new heights of success. Adani Logistics, the nerves of the nation, connecting and simplifying supply chain.